All right, let's get into it. Okay, so I know I'm really late to the party on this. Um, I'm not really gonna go really deep in depth as to why the Marvels didn't work as a movie. Um, I will mention some of the things I liked about the movie, some of the things I just couldn't stand, and a lot of the things I couldn't stand. I'm realizing that um, a lot of people just outright hated. Um, my, I think, number one complaint about the project on a whole is that if you're going to give us a movie and you're going to drop a villain on us that has no backstory and we have no context, we haven't seen this villain in anything, we haven't been hinted about this villain's backstory or their powers or what the main beef is with Captain Marvel. Um, Going into the comic books, I would say there are only two characters that would have been way more entertaining and would have made way more sense and are just powerful altogether. There's one character named Deathbird, and there's another one by the name of Moonstone. These two characters are very powerful, really strong, really interesting. Um, in a fight against Captain Marvel, it would have been way more epic and just all around more entertaining. The character that they chose, I mean, she could be a regular human being with a beef with Captain Marvel, in my opinion. She was about as interesting as J. Jonah Jameson against Spider-Man. Like, it was boring. Your powers were horrible. You're trying to find this bangle thing, and then we got to see why Kamala's grandmother gave her the other one, and there's never an explanation as to why the other bracelet was on a planet way far away. So does that mean that Kamala's family are aliens, or that came to Earth, or what? Like, help me. Like, I sat there for an hour and 45 minutes. And yeah, the bangles and the powers mixing and all of that. And even that wasn't explained well. Like, so sometimes their powers would make them switch places, and then sometimes it wouldn't. And again, like, even in the beginning when, the villain finds the first bracelet. And, okay, why was it buried there? Who buried it there? Who wore the bracelets before then? And what is the main significance of this? She gets to open up wormhole looking things to suck the natural, water, air, and sunlight from places and bring them to her planet. Oh my god, this is the dumbest supervillain reason for anything. It's just dumb. It's just dumb. Personally, again, we're going personally. I would have thought, and even though the Fantastic Four have not been introduced, like Secret Invasion, they kind of messed up the Super Skrull. Let's just go ahead and throw that out there. They messed up the whole Super Skrull thing. And I guess that's why they couldn't use it for this film or any film nearby. But it could have been cool. It could have been cool if they had used it for this movie. I mean, if you're going to use a Super Skrull, and he's not going to have the powers of the Fantastic Four, but powers of villains and heroes that are currently known about, that, you know, aliens know about, of course, because the Avengers defeated Thanos. So obviously, the heroes and villains are known throughout the galaxy now, for the most part. So, and if the Skrulls are on Earth, then they obviously know about all the heroes, especially if they've infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. They know power limits and who's where and how to get, you know, their strengths without their weaknesses and things of that nature. That that could have been way cooler. I would have rather had seen a Super Skrull go against the three Marvels than this really angry Karen who's keeping the hammer of someone that was defeated 80 Marvel movies ago. Like, Ronan the Acute. Wow. Like, I think back to how long ago the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie was. That was 1,000,000 years ago. That was 1,000,000 years ago. And so you're going to bring back his hammer, not him, and give it to someone weaker and someone with a gripe who does a lot of talking through the movie. I mean, a lot of talking. She was such a political figure. Like, I would think that she was running for office more than she was trying to do supervillain stuff. That's just the facts. But I mean, think about it. If you had a Super Skrull, wow. That could have been so much better. So much better as a movie. And there's so many other characters. Like, again, up until the last phase that we've gone through, if you want to call it a phase, because that'll be another video for another time. But if you're just going to let's just pluck a villain out of the MCU that no one knows anything about and throw that person against these three Marvels. Okay, cool. Cool. Why not pick some of the better ones? I mean, I would love to be in one of these pitch meetings at Marvel when someone's like, hey, so we think that what the fans want is they want to see this thing. And someone's like, yeah, you know what? I second that. If I worked at Marvel, if I had any type of power, if I had Kevin's ear and I could suggest some things. Once we introduced the Avengers and we had a bunch of Avengers movies, right? I would say, okay, it's time to introduce new teams. Okay, so obviously for the reasons of selling properties to different companies, like the X-Men was out, Fantastic Four was out. And please don't get me started on the last Fantastic Four movie. I mean, my God. Like, I've never seen something butchered so heavily than the last Fantastic Four movie. But I'm drifting. Let's get back on topic. So I would have said, what about I don't know, Alpha Flight, the Canadian Avengers. You've had movies where you introduce characters like in the Black Widow movie. Okay, so you introduce her mother, her father, her sister, but not, and you introduce Taskmaster, but not once did you mention the words the Winter Guard, which her father was a part of. That could have spun off into, let's go into the Winter Guard and who they were and why they're important, and maybe bring them into fighting other characters down the line somewhere. There are so many great teams that were not X-Men or Fantastic Four related. But yet again, you decided not to do that. But if you're going to just plot people or teams or villains or whatever, if you're going to drop the best. Drop the best you have. Don't give us not even B-rated villains. Like the villain in this movie wasn't even a B-rated villain. If you want like an example of a B-rated villain, I would say like the Vulture, for example, or Blob, X-Men related. Just not that great, not that interesting, either backstory-wise, power-wise, story arcs. It's just, you gotta do better. You guys got to do better. And it just seems like the further along we go, the worse we get. It's just not making sense. Personally, I think that things stopped making sense, Marvel related, and keeping us interested, was when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. came on. How do you have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and we have no A-list or even really B-list superheroes in the show? It's just about S.H.I.E.L.D. and the interworkings of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the bare minimum of superhero mentions, or like, I think the thing that bothered me the most is that nobody on the Avengers ever knew that Coulson didn't die. Again, that will probably be another video for another time. But yeah, this movie was just horrible. This movie was horrible. I feel some kind of way about certain people talking about the moment when Kamala Khan is dropping out of the sky and Nick Fury is trying to tell Rambo to fly up and go get her. And she's like, well, I haven't done this really yet. And he's trying to convince her to go do it. Telling her to use her core and then growls like the Hulk. And then the last ditch effort was yelling Black Girl Magic, and then it worked. But so people are like, oh, Black Girl Magic, like that's, that was funny. That was funny. I've seen the movie in 2 different cinemas, and at that point, people laughed at that part. Just in desperation, say anything to get her to try. That was funny. That was a funny moment. The Singing Planet, like, I think universally, I think everybody across the board hates the Singing Planet. Because, again, just like the villain, and the switching of powers, it didn't make sense. So you went there, you got married to a prince. They don't understand you unless you're singing. But then she's talking to the prince, and it's like, hey, let's cut all that singing out. I need to talk to you about something serious. Like, come on, family. Like, come on. Like, that's... whatever. And then they talk on the planet through the rest of the time that they're on the planet. They're talking. That was a waste of time. That whole scene. The singing was just extending silliness. And there have been scenes of silliness in other movies. Like the scene in Thor, Love and Thunder, when in the beginning when Thor finally shows up to fight and he's doing the split and it's kind of like a Roadrunner Bugs Bunny kind of thing. He's got the two ships separated. That was silly. That was a really silly scene that I didn't think was funny. But, you know, what you gonna do? But yeah, that was just a silly scene. The cats eating everybody to get off the space station. I kind of chuckled. Not gonna lie, I kind of chuckled at that because the part that I was chuckling at was the announcer, the overhead announcer telling everybody to stop running and let the cats eat you. That was funny. That was a funny moment. Just hearing that. Kamala Khan's family made the movie, in my personal opinion. In the scenes that they were in. What else? Kamala Khan was a joy to see because she was relatable. Because if I met Iron Man, like let's just say, if I met Tony Stark, yeah, I'm a grown man, but I'm still gonna kind of fanboy out. You know, I'm like, oh, you know, kind of thing, and be a little silly and be a kid. You know what I mean? Because that's your idol. I've seen videos of people who have been one block away from Jay-Z or Beyonce crying just because they were in the vicinity of them. So what's the difference? She's geeking out on the one person that she has based her identity, her superhero identity on, and who means the most to her. So yeah, she's a kid. You got to keep that in mind. She's not some grown adult. She's a kid. So she played her role accurately. She was a kid who finally got to meet the one person that she idolizes and wants to be like and wants to have a relationship with. So, you know, people talking about, oh, she was silly and that was a waste. That's the most realistic thing about the whole movie was her portrayal of the character as a teen in love with her idol and getting to finally be in the quote-unquote big leagues. I mean, she acted that way by seeing Nick Fury. She acted that way being able to fight and show her powers and talk about her powers and things like that. So that her performance was excellent throughout the whole thing. She was believable. The way that they kind of sped through the explanation of Miss Rambo having powers and what those powers are, and you know, it seemed like lazy writing because they were just really quick. Oh, so I went through a force field. Okay, cool. So that's how you have powers. Cool. She didn't mention the Scarlet Witch. She didn't mention the taking over the town. Like, there was no scene, you know, kind of giving that space. But I think it was a disservice to everyone who didn't watch WandaVision. It's like if you didn't watch WandaVision, you have no idea how this woman went from being a regular human being that knew Carol Danvers as a child to now being able to do stuff. And that's what I mean. There's a big disconnect. Like, it's like they take no time to think to themselves over at Marvel that maybe, possibly, someone has not seen one of the shows. Prime example, the end of the movie, the mid-credit scene, where she's talking to not Kate Bishop. Who was she talking to? Hawkeye. She was talking to Hawkeye. If you didn't see the Hawkeye Disney Plus series, for example, who is this chick? Why is she important? And why is Kamala Khan trying to recruit her? You have no idea. You have no idea. And I understand that through the movies, they have introduced some of the young Avengers, throughout some of the movies and TV shows like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Hawkeye, Ant-Man's daughter, the cutscene from Endgame where Tony speaks to his adult daughter. Like, there are a lot of things that they just skip through. And those were opportunities to kind of let the public connect to who these young kids are and why they're important in the future. You could have hinted a little bit better. A little bit better. So, that's that. But the movie was what it was. It was kind of entertaining. It had its moments. The few that there were. And, I really don't know what else to say about it. It was a disappointment. People are quick to, it's a flop. It's a flop. Oh, the MCU's going to hell. It's like, come on, guys. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Call your therapist. I promise you, the MCU will be all right. If they keep not connecting with just the Marvel fans and the comic book fans, if they don't make it so that if I am new to Marvel and I'm new to the MCU, that I can't jump into the movie and be entertained and fall in love with the characters, then you're going to keep making flops and you're going to keep having television shows and films that nobody's going to be interested in or want to see. If you can remember when the Guardians of the Galaxy, the very first movie, was announced, like, a lot of those characters weren't as well known as the Avengers. But they put the movie out. They had a great director, great cast, great story. So it connected and it made sense. And it connected with other films. And it made people look forward to, okay, so what does this purple stone mean? And why is it being passed around? And what's the next part going to be? But you have movies and television shows now that just don't connect and don't land. There used to be a time when you would miss a Marvel movie. And if you missed it, if you jumped one Marvel movie and jumped to whatever came out after it, there was a lot that was missing. You were like, okay, so who is this character and what is this about and what does this mid-credit scene mean and what does the end mean? I'm missing something. You're missing something because the chapter that you needed before then was the movie before then, previous. So it's like nothing matches up. You had Shang-Chi, if I'm pronouncing that right, and the end of the movie, this ring is sending out a signal. To who? We don't know. We'll find out. Then you had a bunch of stuff that came out after that didn't connect to that ending fact. We have no... And to try to connect it like 80 movies later, that's just dumb. Because the next time you come out with the character in a different movie, are we really going to care? It's going to be like, we forgot he was out there. Our bad. So what was the ring calling? So you got to connect better. We got to connect the stories better. Because with this movie, I feel like if I missed it, if I didn't see this movie, and then I watch the movie that comes out next, I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I could have skipped this movie wholeheartedly. And there have been a couple of movies, a couple of Marvel movies that watching it was like, I really didn't need to see this kind of thing. But again, this, especially after such a long wait, was a waste. It was a waste. So, Marvel, I just ask you, just like all the other fans ask and beg, please go back to making the projects we love, using the formula that you used to. Stop making changes to the ingredients and the recipe. Look, just copy, paste, use the right ingredients. Don't add stuff. Don't take stuff away. But yeah, stop adding stuff. And stop changing so much in the baseline stories. Because what you end up doing is making things less interesting, less entertaining, and the fans that love these characters, you make us hate the characters. Because it's not the character we fell in love with, and you just disregard what you know we want. You know what we want. You do. We want what was on those pages in Marvel Comics. That's it. So just give us that. Just give us that. Please. We promise. We the fans promise. If you just give us what we want. And I don't mean to sound like, a comic book terrorist, but if you just give us what we want, we'll give you our money. We promise. We'll go see these movies and these TV shows. But just do it right. For the fans' sake. At least. So, yeah. Marvel. Do that.